Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today we have, I think, the main and only workshop that's based on this meeting. My name is Simone Buffa, and I'm the thematic area leader in Smart and Sustainable Communities at Uptime Solution Italy. Today, I'm honored to moderate this session where we are clustering actually several projects on district heating and cooling. I hope you are all familiar with the concept of district heating, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask at the end of the session. So we will start with the first speech from Professor Paola Caputo, Associate Professor at Politecnico di Milano, Environmental Engineer with a PhD in Energy Science. Professor Caputo will present the project Support the district heating and cooling, so Support DHC, supporting a fast implementation of low-grade renewable energy and waste heat for district heating systems. This work is done thanks to also the contribution of DH Synergy Hub that allow actually to cluster all this project. Professor Caputo, the floor is yours.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Paola Caputo from Politecnico di Milano, and I'm happy to present you here the Support District Heating and Cooling project. That is a project related to the LIFE call in 2022 for the integration of low-grade renewable energies and waste heat in existing district heating systems. So the project is coordinated by WIP, Renewable Energy in Munich, with the coordination of Dominic Woods. And now we have just started the last year of the project, so we can deal with the first results and with the consolidation of our activities. And the aim is exactly to support and to accelerate the implementation, the integration of low-grade renewable energies and waste heat in the existing district heating system. So this support is achieved by helping the operators in drawing up their transformation plan and in developing some investment plans for at least some measures that will be implemented in the next year, also to meet the goals of the Energy Efficiency Directive. The project provides a different level of support because we have 11 front runners, 27 follower cases, and other replication cases related to the replication program of the project. For the first level of support, we deal with 11, let's say, pilot cases all over Europe. And for these cases, we provide a technical and economic support to the operators to prepare the investment plans and the transformation plan to be carbon neutral at least in 2050. The second level of support is related to 27 followers that were selected during the first year of the project. And for these operators, we provide, let's say, toolkit, the opportunity to have peer-to-peer exchanges, the opportunity to learn from the experience with the front runners, and also a wide set of webinars and resources that they can access during the project and also after the project. And then we have the third level of support that is related to the replication program with about 100 operators involved in the countries that are not the pilot countries of the project. Let's skip the work packages. We have 6 countries that are the focus countries, and these countries are Italy, Austria, Germany, Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine. And then we have other 3 supporting countries with Denmark, Sweden, and Belgium with the Euro Heat and Power. This is also the opportunity for me to thank Euro Heat and Power because they supported the participation of our project in this workshop. So as you can see, we have 11 project partners, Some partners are universities, other are research and consultant centers. And then we have also some association of district heating and cooling operators. The followers are split in these countries. As you can see, we have 3 followers in Italy, 1 in Austria, 1 in Germany, 3 in Poland, 2 in Lithuania, and 1 in Ukraine. So the target country, the project partner from the target country really support and have the control of the activities with the front runners, while the supporting countries provide all the tools and methodologies in order to help front runners and also followers. As you can see, the key point of this project is to have tailor-made activities with different front runners, because as you can see, we provide a different kind of support depending on the needs. So there is a big work to understand the needs that the operators in the different countries have, and then according to these needs, for the different district heating and cooling systems in the different countries, we provide a very tailored support. For example, this support can include the definition of the transformation plan towards carbon neutrality, otherwise can include the mapping of the renewable sources around the plant, or can also provide a pre-feasibility study for particular measures, for example, also for contracting problems related to heat from data center, for example, or other kind of support. So the key point is that this support is really tailor-made. And of course, during this process, we faced also some challenges, because as you know, in the different countries, we have different level about the implementation of the new European directives. We have different contexts related to the energy market, how to deal with carbon tax or with otherwise supporting mechanism for the use of natural gas cogeneration. We have different level of, let's say, rules and regulation, different methodologies for the definition of the tariffs and so on. So these challenges were faced during the project with the proper solution case by case. Here, as you can see, there is only an example of supporting activities for an Italian frontrunner, and we started with the context assessment. So by Energy Pro, we modeled the current situation of this plant, and then we provide the first map of the renewable and waste heat sources around the plant. Then we go ahead with the selection of the technologies, components, also providing economic investigations. And then we support also the operator in interpreting the European goals related to the Energy Efficiency Directive, considering the Article 26. I don't know if you're familiar with this article, but there are 2 ways to consider this article. One is related to the shares of renewables and waste heat, and the other is related to the CO2 emission factor. So we had them also in this definition, and then we model all the configuration in order to have an optimized configuration for the different type step according to the European Energy Efficiency Directive. So after also this first compliance verification, we provided as a result the roadmap of the most appropriate measures to be carried out for achieving proper KPI and for the compliance, as I told you before. And on the right side, you can see only the final results, the representation of the final results about the shares in 2035. This is, again, an example of the results. So we can model and optimize the configuration of the systems as they are now and in the future, and also try to combine, for example, different heat generation modalities with also heat storage in order to meet in the most sustainable way the heat demand of the system. So as main lesson learned, we have that we experimented that a strong interaction with the operators is really important. It's really important to listen their needs and to provide a tailored approach for supporting their investment plans that, for our project, are property of the operators. And then it is also important to provide some, let's say, opportunities for peer-to-peer exchanges among the front runners, but also among front runners, followers, and also to engage the related stakeholders that are key stakeholders. For example, the heat owners are important stakeholders when we deal with contracting or regulation or methodologies for the definition of tariffs and so on. And another key point is the need to have to promote data interoperability, because in this project it's important to put on the same table the heat demand, the heat generation, and also the possibility to verify the national implementation of the European directive. And an important contribution of the project is also to try to understand the possible discrepancies among the national implementation of the directives, but also related to the interpretation of the European directives. For example, as I told you before, in relation to Article 26. So I know that we will need more time for explaining you all the results of the project, but I would like to thank you for your attention. I'm here for questions, and I can also suggest you to have a look of the website of the project, and there is also the possibility to have a look of the toolkit and the replicability program of the project. So I'm here. If you have some questions, I can also go more in detail with the main results of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Paola Caputo. Now we move forward with the next project, the DHC switch project. We have Marco Calderoni, that is technical manager at Up2M Solution, also coordinator of this project. Marco is a mechanical engineer with main expertise in renewable heating and cooling and go-to-market strategy. In DHC switch, Up2M, apart being coordinator, is also responsible for the bankability evaluation. So we're going also to assess all the aspects to support somehow rising funds for utilities to implement those decarbonization plans. But I don't want to say more. I leave the floor to Marco to start your presentation.
Thank you, Simone. Hi, everybody. Just a general introduction. So the projects we're presenting today have all been financed under the same call. I think all of them, maybe one exception, which is LIFE DHC. So the projects are very similar. All are supposed to lead to investment plan for real cases. So we call them case studies, pilots, whatever. I'm saying that because I will go very quickly through the project and try to focus only on the few specificities of our project as opposed to the others. I recommend everybody does the same, because afterwards, I don't know if you said this, we will have a roundtable. So it will be more a discussion about specific questions around district heating. So we try to leave most of the time for that. So DHC switch, coordinated by Up2M, 3 years, like most LIFE projects. And it is about supporting operators, so case studies I mentioned before, in realizing investment plans. For what? For reaching, said in a few words, reaching a level which of renewables and excess heat or waste heat that meets the new requirements posed by the Energy Efficiency Directive Paolo was referring to. And part of the roundtable will be exactly about understanding these criteria that change over time. And that's one of the big issues. Partners, not so important. I can only mention that we have A2A, an Italian operator, and 2 Croatian operators, and indirectly a Polish operator. Specificity of DHC switch, that's more, if you will, communication issue. It's divided in 4 links. And the 4 links are about identifying and mapping, on the one hand, locally available renewables. On the other hand, locally available waste heat. And on the other hand, potential for extending the demand. So which additional customers can the operator reach in the future to increase the business. Then comes selecting scenarios, so we call them modernization scenarios, that have to meet the new criteria posed by the Energy Efficiency Directive. We simulate them, and afterwards we evaluate them from a financial and bankability perspective. So that means also we have to quantify the cost to make each scenario come true. Our case studies are 2 networks. It's all real networks, of course. 2 networks in Italy, here around Milano, let's say, 35 and 20 megawatts peak thermal demand. 1 case study in Poland, and 2 case studies in Croatia. And you see the size is medium to small, especially if you compare to Northern Europe or Central Europe. But for Italian standards, it's medium size, I would say. Okay, other specificities. First of all, what the Italian partner URAC is doing, they developed a methodology for a relatively quick evaluation of or quantification of available waste heat, available renewables, and potential additional demand in terms of customers. I think the most interesting is the waste heat part, because it is, well, renewables, there are a lot of maps meanwhile available at European level, at local level, but waste heat is a bit different. It requires to know the processes, the industries, and that's not always public domain. What they're trying to make it short, I'm also not an expert on that, but they based on the NACE code. In Italian, we spell it NACE. I don't know in English how you would spell it, but it's a way to start from official information publicly available in most cases, and out of this very simple information come up with a meaningful estimation of how much waste heat could be available and at what temperature level, because that's of course one of the big changes when it comes to district parameters when it comes to district heating. Sorry, it's a bit slow. Okay, I forgot now. Here we have IES, represented here today by 2 colleagues, who is extending the software, mainly adding a dashboard for the investment planning. So the idea is that IES, which is a commercial software based in Ireland, is a company, at the end of the project also comes up with, after simulations, with a dashboard meant for investors that allows to identify and show the most important KPIs a bank or a board would evaluate before assessing or deciding we go or not, we finance or not your investment. And then they are working also on some additional feature, because existing software often are not capable to do exactly what you need. That's just part of the game. So for example, using heat, IES is a commercial software, so it's relatively easy to use, but then it doesn't allow for a complete freedom like you would have in a very complex software environment. So they're now trying, for example, to add the capability of heat pumps to pick up the waste heat available mapped in the previous part of the work I mentioned before, and consider the temperatures level. So this is part of the work being done, and as I said, bankability. Finally, general comment: when you work on a district heating extension or modernization problem, or even a new network, that has, unlike other environments, technological environments, has as one of the main challenges the fact that you have to work with many stakeholders, because it's related to urban planning, it's related to European directives, it's related to technologies, it's related to customers, which are families. And so what I, as a coordinator, realized pretty soon is that if we work like we do in UU projects, work package by work package, so first we do the mapping, then we select the scenarios, then we simulate, then we see if they are bankable. Potentially, this could be an almost never-ending loop. You may because you come to the end and realize this scenario is financially not viable, or maybe it's viable, but a bank would not finance it because it's too risky. So our approach is trying to be a task force approach, where we sit around the table for each case study with all the heads around that table and try to anticipate. So right from the beginning, does this measure make sense? Not only technologically, not only energetically, not only from an acceptance point of view, but also from a bankability perspective and financial perspective. That's, I think, one of the main challenges. And with that, I'm done. Thank you for your attention, and looking forward to the roundtable discussion.
Thank you, Marco, for presenting this switch. Now we move forward with another project. I invite here Stefano Martelli, project manager in Opti. Stefano is an energy and nuclear engineer that has an important expertise in district heating and cooling, and is a project manager in Opti, and Opti in this project is leading the work package related to the strategic investment planning and evaluation. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm here presenting Enable DHC. Like has been said, as Marco said, every project at this table more or less talk about investment plans and so on and so forth. So I will not be very long it just takes a second in explaining what Enable DHC is, rather trying to explain again what distinguishes it in a way. So our mission is basically foster improved efficiency in existing DHC systems by developing investment plans that allow us to basically reach the EU targets in decarbonization. We have demo cases, or however you want to call it, in 7 countries: Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Austria, Ukraine, and Latvia as well. And the idea is try to basically define a framework in which there is a high replication potential. Because once you assess potential pathways of decarbonizing and doing it in a very sustainable fashion, that you may basically foster the replication of such practices across Europe. And another big part of it is, as you may see this map, it's all very disconnected, very all across the board in terms of the characteristics. This is another point that I think is of added value, because of course Italy is not the same as Ukraine or also Latvia. So having a heterogeneous portfolio of situation may allow us to have a broader picture of how a EU plan may look like. Along with all of the representation of these states that I mentioned, us as Optit, AIT, and AEE are technical partners and basically are carrying out the technical analysis. But a part of the consortium are also Euroheat and Power, AGFB, the German Association of District Heating, RDIA, and WIP, etc., etc. So I will present just some examples of what we are doing, just to present different characteristics, different kind of situation that we are trying to face. Here in the first one is Aquiterme, which is in northwestern Italy. You eat very well there, by the way. There is a very small network, with more or less, again, the numbers are there, but basically a very traditional Italian system, very small system, where it's very CHP and boilers. Gas is basically the only fuel source. What they're trying to achieve is trying to understand, okay, how we integrate RES into the mix. Basically, us as Optit are trying to aid them in this endeavor. And first of all, we try to split the issue in 2 parts. A, what can you do with your current assets without more or less spending any money? So you do have efficiency, you have flexibility inherently in your portfolio of assets. Can you dispatch them efficiently in your day-to-day operation and still achieve economic and/or environmental results? We've done so with our proprietary tool, which of the EPTM. And basically, we did create a digital twin of the system, analyzed on, basically create a benchmark to assess what the reduction in CO2 and the increase of euros can bring solutions like this. Once you have a digital twin of a system, you can look at the future. You can look at the future understanding, okay, how can I expand my portfolio? How can I integrate new RES sources? So you can do it in a bunch of ways. Since the situation there is pretty peculiar because they do have like a high geothermal potential there. So of course, that's the first thing that came to mind. So basically, we are aiding them to identify what's the best design. It wasn't really a matter of which technology, because in that case, it was pretty clear. But we are aiding them in assessing what size the storage must be, or what size the heat pump must be, etc., etc. Starting from understanding what the design criteria should be, analyzing a bunch of scenarios, and then understanding which scenarios are actually feasible from a technical and economic standpoint. Moving on to another very different case, Wien. I think you know where Wien is. It's pretty different kind of a system. It's a different beast, a very big system with own complexities. And it's very much diverse portfolio there. CHP, waste heat, industrial and waste incineration, heat pumps, biomass units. Basically, they pretty much have it all. And what they are trying to say is trying to understand whether we can expand even more the technology mix. Adding some fancy stuff such as carbon capture and green gas, hydrogen, and stuff like that. AIT is aiding them in this endeavor, and first of all, they are basically outlining what are the factors that they are driving uncertainty in analysis and investment, because of course, you look at the future, you may have some forecasts of anything, but you never know what is going to be tomorrow, basically. They are assessing what the major drivers are, heat demand, commodity prices, and other drivers to define an uncertainty framework. And once they've done that, using Monte Carlo simulations, they analyze decarbonization pathways, basically utilizing Monte Carlo simulation as a stress test of the pathways they are trying to hypothesize. This should lead basically to have a good idea of what's feasible in terms of decarbonization pathway and how robust that assumption is. Last but not least, by Slicedo, hopefully I pronounced it correctly, small system in the eastern part of Austria. In there, the situation is even different. You have 5 very small systems, and the challenge here is not really imagine fancy stuff, rather do it a very simple thing, but it's challenging at the same time. Let's interconnect them, because you can leverage better what the already available technologies, such as biomass and so on and so forth. You can, of course, exploit it better while you're at it in expanding the network and interconnect the very system. You can connect more customers along the way. So I may have rushed a bit, but I'm, of course, available. Feel free to visit the website of the project. Feel free to contact me if you want any other information. And hopefully I've been pretty much clear. I'll leave the floor. Thank you.
Okay, we have other 2 projects in this session. So I invite here Federico Zucchi from SEI, Servizi Energetici Integrati Mantova. Federico will tell us about the Green Heat Life project, optimization and investment planning of district heating system for lower temperature and decarbonization. Federico has more than 20 years of experience in district heating networks and renewable energy plants. And in the last 5 years, he focused on, say, digitalization and decarbonization project. Federico, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, reading such a long title, maybe some of you are figuring how digital twin or an AI technology can help a district heating company to lower its network temperatures or decarbonize its network. My name is Federico Zucchi. I belong to SEI, Servizi Energetici Integrati, which is based in Mantova, Italy. And in the next 5 minutes, I'll try to answer this question and explaining the way our consortium is carrying on the Green It Life project. So I provide you some details about this project. This project is part of the LIFE program for environment and climate action, and in particular, it's part of the sub-program Clean Energy Transition. It has a duration estimated in 36 months, from October 2024 until the end of 2027. The consortium partner will receive a contribution from the European Community of around 1,700,000 euros, and the consortium consists of 7 partners from 6 different countries. In particular, the consortium is coordinated by Gradient, a Dutch company which will provide the digital twin technology. We'll have the support of Euroheat Power, which is based in Belgium, for the communication and dissemination tasks. And there are 5 more partners that are district heating companies that are based in Germany, in Italy, in Lithuania, the Netherlands, and Sweden. The German partner manages 3 district heating systems in particular: Mars, Schmalkalden, and Dortmund-Schuren. And so the global number of district systems involved in this project is 7. Okay, so what is this project about? Basically, the aim is to modernize this 7 district heating system. And how can this be done? The idea is to create a digital twin for each of these 7 district heating systems. And this digital twin will allow basically 2 outcomes. The first outcome is that we expect to make our networks more efficient by controlling the network temperatures, and the second outcome is an investment plan. We are talking about investment plan, so it is an investment plan about decarbonization, and the investment plan will be developed on some scenarios, and will be decarbonization scenarios that will be run by the digital twin in order to be able to choose the most cost-effective one. The project consists of 5 work packages, but basically the most important outcomes are creating the digital replica of the system, identify the critical components of each system in order to find the most effective solutions, improve, optimize the operational parameters, and integrate renewable energies in the systems in the long term, of course, and develop and approve investment plans focused on the GHG reduction. Of course, the final part of the job is sharing the best practices as we are doing today. So the first step of our project is gathering data, collect data, and validate them in order to build the digital twins. And okay, some companies have already completed the step. Some are in the process. And for instance, Mantova has already completed this part of the process. So the digital twin is up and running, and we are already adopting the set points that the optimized set points that the system proposed to our system. While other companies are still gathering data and building the digital twin. The second step is building the scenarios, and then run them and identify the most efficient ones in terms of decarbonization, but also in terms of costs and benefits. And the final part is the development of the investment plans, which will be done in 2026, basically. So, okay, all along the project, sustainability and replication and communication and dissemination are part of the tasks of the consortium. So let's talk about a few numbers. What are the outcomes that we expect from this project? We have a heat loss reduction of 10 to 15% on average across the 7 networks. I can tell you that our company has started to adopt the set points a couple of years ago or so, the first ones, and our outcomes are in line with these expectations. So, of course, if we can reduce the heat losses, we can have a reduction also in terms of GHG emissions and also in terms of costs reduction and efficiency increase and primary energy savings that are stressed in the slide. And finally, we expect that every network will develop an investment plan, and that the investment plan will trigger investment for around 185 million euros. And okay, we also have great ambitions and expectations. This is okay, an institutional slide, but if I can add something to the ambition described here, I think that the most interesting part of the project is using digital twins and the AI technology in order to take decisions concerning the way we manage and we develop our networks. So a data-driven and AI-driven approach to these two practices. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your attendance.
So we have the last presentation, but then we have the most interesting session because I have a long list of questions. So be prepared. So I invite to come here David Perez, partner at Creara Consultores from Spain. David holds a bachelor degree in law and economics and business administration. He has a lot of experience in the energy sector, in the energy market regulation. Today he will present the Road to High district heating project that coordinates. So, David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Let's start because pictures are better.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to spend little time presenting the project, and I'm going to spend more time giving some thoughts about one of the analysis we are running, which has to do with the analysis of essentially volumes. Volumes means how much heat these district heatings are delivering to their customers, essentially. So the low to high project, very similar to the ones that have been presented just before, is a 3-year project started in 2023 and expected to finish within 1 year. Belongs as well to the same LIFE program, 1.7 million subsidies. We are focusing on 3 countries, which is Lithuania, Poland, and Slovakia. The target over here is to reach 50% decarbonization. We didn't have specific pilots selected in the offer, in the proposal, and but we had to identify them during the project. So far we have identified 6 sites, 2 per country, 2 in Lithuania, 2 in Poland, 2 in Slovakia, and we are trying to build an investment plan for them. I didn't mention the partners we included in the consortium, but essentially we have local partners in each of the countries, and we have also partners from all the different countries from different areas of knowledge and specialty. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this analysis of volumes and implications in the availability to decarbonize in Slovakia. These are the 2 sites. One is Lucsanska, which is something like a neighborhood in Bratislava, and then it's Strava Lubovna, the other one is Strava Lubovna, which is a small, medium town in the northeast of the country. So, first of all, when understanding the impact, when analyzing the impact of volumes in the and the implications for a district heating site, it is important to understand how retail price is regulated, because this is not, and it happens in all 3 countries. This is not a free market. Prices are not for free, but they are heavily regulated, as you could expect. So essentially, there is a fixed component and a variable component. Essentially, the variable component, this is essentially like a pass-through. So there's a model in which essentially all the costs of the district heating site are passed through the customer. So essentially, they are not bearing risks. So essentially, the variable component is essentially the cost of fuel, the cost of gas. And then the fixed component includes everything what is needed to produce and distribute heat, essentially. And that includes the profit. So essentially, these companies are not generating a revenue, and then they have a cost, and that generates a profit. That doesn't work like that. Regulation goes and said, look, you can charge 18 euros per kilowatt of what they call heat capacity. This is a regulated as well concept, and it is calculated in an automatic way. But essentially, it is more or less linked to volumes. There is something interesting, which is this wouldn't be very encouraging, right, to decarbonize. But they could have an extra profit if 20% of their system is decarbonized. This could be interesting, and it's something that we're still analyzing. This is just a quick analysis about how the variable component and the price of gas correlates, which is essentially 1, so essentially the same. It's nothing very, very surprising. Okay, so how energy volumes are evolving in these 2 sites. So essentially, they are decreasing, and this is the issue. We want to decarbonize our business, which volumes and which size is decreasing. This is not something very attractive, right? If you're an investor, you don't want to go into a business which is falling, which is decreasing. So what we see is it is decreasing between 4% and 3% per year over the last years. And we said, well, we have to forecast this and how to model this, which are the elements included in these trends. And we identified 2. One, this is just a matter of decomposing that variable into parts. The first one is the unitary consumption, that is energy consumption per apartment, how that evolves. and why. And the second one is number of apartments connected to the grid. So essentially, you want to see, if possible, more apartments connecting to the grid, and if that is not possible, at least not seeing them getting disconnected. So what we see is that in Stara Lubovna, the number of apartments are decreasing. This is the axis over here, slightly, but it is decreasing. While in the other one, they are stable. And the unitary consumption in both of cases are decreasing. And let's analyze both of them separately. This is analyzing the unitary consumption, the evolution of unitary consumption. One element that has a huge impact is the degree of isolation of buildings. Essentially, in this city, in Petrarska, buildings are being renovated, they are being insulated, and that has a strong correlation with unitary consumption. As you can see, the correlation is very strong. Over here, 90% in 2022, almost all buildings in the city have been renovated, and that means that this element will not be a factor of generating a decrease in sales volumes anymore. And the second one has to do with essentially climate change. I mean, this is the number of degree days. I don't know if this is something used internationally. Degree days. Okay, so we see that this is falling by 1.5%. I mean, the trend, the curve is exactly the same because we have extrapolated with the general, what happens generally in the country. But if we do the same analysis for them separately, we'll see also a decreasing trend. So this is also bad news because people are going to need less and less heat year after year. And this is something that helps us to understand how to model the future, right? It's not a matter of guessing, it's a matter of having why, of understanding why. And this one has to do with the number of apartments connected to the district heating sites. So essentially, you don't want to see people disconnecting from your grid. You want to see people connecting to your grid. Perfect. So, but the problem over here is a matter of economies of scale. I mean, when we model the price, or the way the price is modeled or is built in this regulatory system, the price increases when you have less volumes or less customers, essentially. So we see also there is a strong correlation between the number of essentially the demand in year T-2, which is 2 years previous, which is what regulation uses, and the fixed component of the price in year T. So essentially, we see this district heating is losing clients essentially, and therefore selling less and less. And that means that prices every year, roughly, in a pretty stable way, prices are increasing. So that is also bad news. Okay, so these are so as a conclusion, what we have is. Yeah, I mean, this is the scenario, no? Heat volumes are expected to decrease in the 2 Slovak cases analyzed, and I guess we're going to find something very similar in the other 2 countries, and probably everywhere, at least, not everywhere. I would say more in Central and Eastern European countries, because over there district heating.
I have the same.
Because over there, district heating is perceived as something old, and people doesn't want to stay in district heating. They want to be free and have an individual gas boiler. This is an issue. No? This is something psychological or sociological, but prices are said to be the main driver for this. So essentially, district heating companies should offer attractive prices compared to gas boilers. This is something important. So we see heat volumes are going to decrease because of a milder weather and also energy regulations in buildings, something to take into account very much to model the future. And then this issue about disconnections, it would be ideal to somehow detach or to break the link between lower volumes and higher prices. That would be fantastic. Second, that is, I think, a very good takeaway for the policy recommendation. But And second, the way regulation is built, demand volumes are very important at the moment. So this is something to give a thought about, because it could make more difficult to finance or to the decarbonization or the investment decarbonization for this kind of sites. Also because being inefficient is not very penalized. Essentially, the system is built in a way that they want to make sure that all citizens receive heat. This is the most important thing and the final main goal of regulation, which makes sense. But it should be somehow also more incentives to have a more healthy and more, from the business point of view, healthier business in this site. Also interesting to see the effect and how useful it is, this incentive to be renewable for district heating sites if you have 20% renewable in your system. I guess this is grounds for the discussion. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. Always interesting seeing numbers and pilots. Thanks for your presentation. I think we can now move to the question and answer session. I will invite the audience to ask any question.
Maybe we come with a chair.
Yes.
It'd be better than just.
Yes.
Or do you prefer to
some
stand?
of those
No, I think having a wheelchair. It's okay.
Yeah, we have half an hour. Yes, I don't know exactly where.
Any questions from the audience for our speakers?
Separate. But I think we will not need.
Please stand up and make your question. In general, or you are asking a specific?
Probably general, but starting from David about the Slovenia data. So from Nottingham Trent University, Yan.
Raise your voice a bit.
Yeah, I'm Yan from Nottingham Trent University. The district heating against individual boilers. Have you looked into thermal comfort?
Have you what? Sorry?
Thermal comfort. Do they offer similar levels of comfort? For example, whether district heating perform not at the right time, delayed starting time, for example. Another thing is the gas price may be changing in the last 3 or 4 years because of the war. Probably you can comment the change of the price of gas, whether that's impact on your district heating as well.
Yeah, so if I understood well, you're asking about the different level of comfort provided, offered by both technologies, right? District heating or individual. Yeah. So, this is something. I guess we will not have the time or the resources to investigate in depth, okay? But we have received comments, and even if price has been mentioned as the main, let's say, reason to disconnect from district heating and cooling, these service levels, they call, or level of comfort, sometimes are also sometimes mentioned. So because the district heating system, the ones living in the first floor on the ground floor, they have a lot of heat, and the ones living in the top floor, they're always cold. No? And they are not, and in some cases they are not allowed to somehow to regulate this and to close the tap a little bit. No? Although in some other parts it is possible. So and also there is this sociological factor which I mentioned before, which also affects. So these are the three elements pushing for a disconnection. No? But even if it's true what you say, and sometimes the individual gas boiler could provide a higher level of comfort, price is still the main driver for this connection, as far as for what we understood.
Simone, at the end of the day, this question is basically leading us to one of the two questions we agreed upon, right? The second one, which is a trend towards disconnection in some countries, right?
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, the audience here asked a bit more the effect on comfort. I would say that probably what I mentioned is that in this city, it depends also when your house is located, because usually houses or apartment blocks that are far from the heating plant could suffer from some problems, and sometimes are the ones that receive water at lower temperature. Of course, if you have your gas boiler and it works well, you have the temperature that you want. So you are also free to decide about your comfort level. But yeah, I agree with Marco. But probably we can extend a bit this question. So do you think that only the price aspect is the one that can mitigate those disconnection from this heating? Because of course, we want more user, more customer to be connected, and also we want to build new distributing systems. So how we can make distributing more attractive in existing and new systems?
Where should we start?
Exactly.
From Kinizia?
There are, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if there is
Or
one.
I can start
Yeah.
and then on this, yeah, and then we do the other way around. Okay, so I'm looking at my cell phone simply because we agreed on these two questions before. We thought it's relevant ones. So I asked the partners of my project. I don't know if you did the same. So I'm just checking what they
Without
think. And the first part of the answer to your question is what David was mentioning is probably right, although I think is for sure right. But this is more a difference between centralized and decentralized heating, whether it's district heating or a central boiler in the basement. It's very similar. Now maybe district heating adds additional issues, but also simplifies a lot because you don't have anymore a boiler in your home, so you don't have gas. You may get rid of gas if you now with heat pumps it's anyway getting rid, but you don't have to maintain your system in your apartment. So it's a company like say Mantova or A2A or whatever Eon that deal with the maintenance. So it's always, let's say, a trade-off. But anyway, I confirm that I asked my partners, and in Poland and in Croatia, they are experiencing the same. So Poland mentioned they are losing 1/3 of the customers. Now, this is a strong statement. I wanted to ask him, what do you mean they are losing 1/3? Did it happen, or is it supposed to happen? I don't know. I didn't come to ask him, but this is an issue. And while in Northern Europe, it looks like it's more the competition with heat pumps. Like Sweden, is there any Swedish attendee here? No, but Sweden is, to my knowledge, the country where heat pumps are really mostly penetrating the market. And many people tend to switch to individual heat pumps or even centralized in the basement, but disconnected from district heating. So for sure, I confirm from our experience, it's in DHC switch, it's the same. And when I asked about what could be the solution, for sure, the first answer was price. So everybody says price, everybody in the consortium, so it's statistically not relevant, but let's say price is for sure an issue. Interesting additional comments were, in some countries, there is a legal, if your policy, obligement to connect if the district heating network is within a certain range from your house and it is efficient according to European norms, etc., then you are obliged. So this is a different approach, but could be part of the answer, of course. And which is still related to the price, though, is it seems that one commercial approach is to offer very cheap connections. So try to limit the connection pricing barrier, because the utility has to bear with the cost to bring the pipes and do all the connections, install the heat exchanger. Try to be low on that side to remove that entrance barrier, let's say. So this is my contribution from this switch.
Yeah, well, my contribution is well,
You have already presented.
but anyway, a couple of thoughts here. Essentially, because I asked to my colleagues in Poland, in Slovakia, in Lithuania, and I asked, is anybody taking care of commercial activity in the district heating company? Because the district heating company is seen as something given. I mean, it's not seen as a business. It's seen as a service of the city, but it's not a business. Nobody has to make money with this. And this is an issue. I mean, nobody is living better or is making more money or something if we add new connections. And this is something that somehow doesn't work in the market logic. No? I understand that this has a tradition of not centuries, but decades, and it would be difficult to change this mindset. But and I know that there has been a change in this direction. For example, in Poland, I remember talking to Kape, which is your partner, right? Yeah. To Christoph, which is technical director of Kape. He knows a lot about district heating, technically. And he said that there was a change in a time, I don't remember what exactly, like 20 years ago or something, there was a change, and all district heating started to have some kind of commercial activity to capture and to convince people to stay or to capture new clients. No? But I still, there's something still to be properly investigated. Next week I'm going to Poland. We have a consortium meeting there, and we will talk about this. You too? In Poland as well? Yes. Okay, we will meet there. Actually, it will be, I remember now. Anyway, I still think that I don't think there is something like a commercial director or a business development responsible in district heating companies. Nobody's really looking after growing the business because it is not seen as a business. I know you come from a district heating. No, I guess in Italy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something
you're talking about
what
Eastern
happens
Europe.
in Slovakia, in Poland, or in Lithuania. This is my thought, my contribution.
Well,
Please, please. No
Yeah, we
problem.
know that.
Yeah, we know. Okay.
You can.
So I would try to summarize my thoughts and also the discussion that I had among our consortium. So as you told before, I think that there are two main topics to be discussed. One is related to the tariffs. So we agree that we are waiting for methodologies, etc., from our authorities. And for this topic, we depend also on the economic balance of the operators. But we have also another important point, that is the trust. So the trust that the customers should have for the operators. So to build this trust, we have to, operators would provide a serious management of the district heating systems, the proper thermal comfort, so with the control devices, digitalizations, and so on, to provide perfect comfort conditions. And of course, good prices, not only for this year, but also with a long-term approach. And also green heat, because some customers are attracted from green heat. So the decarbonization can be also an opportunity to have more customers, from my point of view. And for the connection, we have also some benefits that are related, for example, to the consideration that in the future, natural gas boilers won't be possible. So we have also this important driver, let's say. And also from the APBD, so the Directive for the Energy Performance in Building, we know that if a customer, a building is connected to an efficient district heating system, this building will be considered as zero energy building. So this is another important point to be connected to efficient district heating network. And of course, we can have other benefits, for example, related to the fact that the customers are not in charge of the maintenance, of course, of the heating systems. There is no noise, like, for example, in some cases with the heat pumps. And some people, like elderly people, see in some cases, when there is trust, they see the district heating system as safer because they don't have natural gas inside the home. And also, I think that another point to promote the connection is the possibility to have a different consideration for the customer. For example, the topic of the prosumer, of the thermal community, renewable community, that can be other drivers to promote the connection. Even because the disconnection of a user implies also new investment to have another heating system into our home. So it is a disincentive point. So maybe putting together all these points and also trying to combine energy efficiency measures with digitalization, with thermal storage, etc., can make operators able to have new connection without an increase of the thermal power in the generation system. So without other important investment. I think that more or less these are the main driver to have new connections and less disconnection.
Thanks, Paola. So let's hear now the voice from a district heating operator
From the field.
from the field and from Italy. We are curious to understand if you are facing the same problem as in Eastern Europe in terms of this connection.
We have quite a different situation compared to the Eastern Europe companies. Since I knew this question in advance, I went and checked how many disconnections we had in the last 5 years. We have 1,600 customers, and in the last 5 years we had 2 disconnections cases.
And no reconnection, new connection?
And many new connections we had. The trend compared to the one you showed is increasing. Okay, so we have a different situation. I'd like just to tell something about the 2 cases because I think that they are meaningful. The first case is a case of a big block building with many families living there. It is a building with a very old heating floor system with the steel pipes running in it. The system was not working anymore, so basically they could not heat their flats, and they decided to disconnect from district heating and to install heat pumps in each flat. That was because it was the less expensive solution to the problem. Otherwise, they would need to rebuild the heating plant from scratch, and this would have costs that were not bearable for those families. And the second case is a big company which, I guess they sell shoes or so. It was a sort of company decision. They decided to disconnect from the district heating network and to install a heat pump because that was the, let's say, company policy. Okay. In both cases, the disconnection was in favor of heat pumps, and I think that this is interesting because there's one point that I'd like to point out, and it is heat pumps have a really meaningful policy of subsidies from the state, while district heating had no subsidies, or it is starting now to have this kind of subsidies. So the issue is not, at least for Italy, the people is disconnecting from district heating networks, but district heating networks but the issue is the failed connections, because nowadays many people found more convenient, more find cheaper to install heat pumps because they have stronger subsidies compared to those of district heating. And I think this is a part of the problem, because if a country decides that district heating is a technology worth investing on, this must be supported by subsidies too. So, okay.
Thank you. So let's see the view of a software developer or tool developer to support somehow this kind of transition.
Yeah, apart from, of course, agreeing with the colleagues, of course, price, like everything in life, money is king. But at the same time, I would say that it's price or perceived price in a way, because I think one of the issue is also all the hidden costs that are in heat pumps and or individual systems may not be completely apparent to the users when they do make that decisions, because at the end of the day, there are, say, qualitative reasons to connect to the district heating system, which is convenience. You don't have system at your house, which means that if you break something, you have to pay it, and so on and so forth. But also the fact that as a continent, we are steering towards electricity-driven assets such as heat pumps, which is great. It's a good alternative. Yet at the same time, we are not really posing ourselves the question: who's going to produce that electricity, and what's going to happen when the grid is congested? I.e., price may be convenient right now, but in 5 years' time, if we don't make enough investments on the transmission line, prices may not be that convenient. So the investment decision and planning and all that good stuff, it really depends on how you do it, how much you are taking into account potential variation in these conditions that are essential to the business case. I would assume that consultants, utilities, and all of these entities do this kind of reasoning. The customer may not. So at the end of the day, what can we do is invest in communication, meaning that try to inform in a, say, digestible way this kind of concepts. And I agree, especially with the fact that we should ride the green wave of another key to unlock new customers, because for sure we can decarbonize much more on a district heating level rather than on a single user level.
Thank you. So yeah, just a comment from my side. So we have seen the effect of climate change, the effect of user disconnection. So making these investment plans, this forecast for the next 20, 30 years, digitalization, digital twin are probably a need. For instance, for the study we did in Padova, we assessed that the heating demand will be for like a multifamily house will decrease by about 30% in 2050, because in Padova probably will be the climate of Rome in 2050. So, and this is also a challenge for you when you have to develop new system, new plants. But going back to the connection to the Energy Efficiency Directive, so we move to the question one. How shall the decarbonization projects be designed in order to satisfy the different deadlines, so different short and medium term environmental obligation, considering that somehow the criteria for efficient heating will be more stringent. So you know that there is this identification of efficient heating if a system meets some requirements in terms of carbon footprint, and this will be more stringent in the future. For instance, in the conto termico, that is a new incentives that will start in Italy, only somehow
those connections to those kind of efficient district heating can benefit from an important incentive. So how are you going to address this rolling somehow horizon, since there are different steps in the directive? Are you taking into account step by step, or are you thinking to the most efficient solution? So you're looking already to the 2050 scenario. I don't know, we want something from you, Marco?
Let's start again from here. Yes, here the answer is quite straightforward. I received more or less a common answer. The thing is, so the objectives of the EED when it comes to district heating become more stringent across time. But on the other hand, district heating is an infrastructure. It's let's say, call them, their times are long. So when you do an investment, it's for decades, it's not for years. So someone in the consortium called it the lock-in effect. Means if you do an investment now, it will impact on your business also in terms of how much renewable and waste heat you have in the grid for decades. So your investment needs to be, and this is especially A2A, so our Italian utility operator partner. It needs to be, we call it intermediate. Yeah, so looking at the first threshold and then at the second one. But because if you install a system, it's then it is there, that size for years, they're looking into modularity. So which I don't know how easy it is now with the devices on the market. Maybe you know a bit better because you look at what is available. But for sure, they are not looking at the last and more stringent objective and installing right now what is needed to meet the 2050 threshold. They're looking, for example, if it's heat pumps, for a heat pump that is as much modular as possible, meaning in 10 years, I can double its size without removing or having to get rid of the one I buy now. So let's say the keyword would be modularity.
To be honest, this hasn't been addressed as a serious issue. And that is because in our call, I don't know, you're from 22, you're from 23. You're from 22. Our call required 50% low-grade sources or low-temperature sources, 50%. So nothing below that threshold is acceptable. Sometimes, I mean, the technical partners came up with solutions which decarbonized less than 50%, and then those were not acceptable. No? But anyway, even if 50% is the minimum threshold, we are trying to achieve something close to 100%. But however, and I think that's enough, because finding 50% is, I mean, I would say it's easy, but it's doable, and that's it. However, we also consider that, I mean, the request is to 2000, the full request is 2050, the maximum. And that's still 25 years to go. So, I mean, modularity is a solution because we invest 10 or 15 years, which is acceptable. And then you still have time for a second investment. So that's the answer.
Okay, honestly, I have a theoretical answer because we discussed of this topic during a capacity building event of my project for this heating and cooling project. But I would like only to add some other keywords to the keyword of modularity. And one is the backcasting approach. So we have to define the current situation and the final target, for example, in 2015, and then with a backcasting approach to define the intermediate steps to decarbonize the system. But this, of course, implies long-term investments, a long-term vision. So it is really challenging for the operators. So long-term vision, short-term actions. This is the slogan that emerged in our event dealing with this issue. And the other point is to avoid the behavior. Let's wait and see what will happen in the future, because this behavior can provoke losing some opportunities for the decarbonization and also for the development of new technologies. So these are the key messages related to my project, but I would like to add also a personal consideration that in this context, operator must be able to decarbonize. So we need to prepare all the methodologies, implementation of directives, supporting mechanism, and so on to make operators ready for the decarbonization, because this framework of instability in Europe is not the proper context to make this ability for the operators.
Okay, as for us, okay, we are making our plans until 2035. This is also because, and it is in part what Paola said, we don't know what in the next years, what kind of technologies will be available. So, since the life of a plant is around 15 or 20 years, not 40 or 50 years. At the moment, it would not be savvy, in our opinion, to invest to reach the right now let's say the 2050 goal, because it will be really expensive. At the moment, for us, implementing renewable energies technologies is a cost, because the heat we buy and then we deliver to our customers from our providers. We use fossil fuels, is cheaper than the heat that we would produce through renewable energy. So this is also part of the investment plan. Okay, and okay, so this is basically our the real issue is not 2035, but it is 2028, because building a small plant or building a bigger plant in terms of permitting times is the same. If you build a 2 megawatt heat pump, or you build a 20 megawatt heat pump, you don't have a factor 10 in times. You don't have a 1 month authorization process. The process of authorization takes 1 year or more. The same for the 2 megawatts than for the 20 megawatts. So we are rushing for 2035, and but 2028 is a real issue. Also because it's not clear what happens if we don't meet the 2028 goal in 2028. So it is this is the real issue at the moment.
And what is your impression? What could be the consequence of not meeting the 2028 threshold?
Only the optimization of the generation via natural gas, from my point of view.
No, but I mean, if what could there be a fee, a sanction? Could there be? Is it just about accessing incentives?
No subsidies.
No subsidies.
You're not allowed to get subsidies.
The plant will be not efficient. So
And therefore,
and therefore, exactly, no calls, no incentives, and so on. But
This is let's say this is sort of a spiral, because on one hand you need to decarbonize, and you will need money to do it. But if you don't decarbonize, you will receive no money. So
Even worse, even more
Yes.
difficult to get the money. May I make a question? What would happen? I mean, you are no longer a regulated scheme for price. I mean, you are free to set the price.
It's changing in Italy right now.
It's this is okay. I didn't want just to
Open that.
touch this topic because it's a huge topic, but the situation is changing. From a completely free market, we are moving towards a tariff world. So
Okay, so you don't have the liberty to increase prices, for example. I mean, you can
at
say.
the moment we have
I mean, would it be, what would happen if you said, look, I mean, I need to make an investment to decarbonize and to be efficient, and I need to spend blah. So I'm going to increase tariffs 2%, or whatever, for 10 years or whatever, for 5 years. And what would happen with your clients?
in Italy, there's a sort of revenue cap.
Revenue?
Yes, if you gain more than it is set by the authorities, you have to you can't keep the extra money. You have to give it back to the state, basically. So this is of course no incentive for investments.
Interesting. Close to what you were saying before. Interesting thought.
Okay, I think we have to rush because probably, but yeah, I will give also the word again to Stefano for your comments on this question.
Yeah, but actually, I don't have much to add because I think that more or less the issue is what they described. At the end of the day, one wish to be able to plan to 2050, yet at the same time, the political institutional framework doesn't allow you to at the time because it changes constantly. So eventually, you just settle with the medium term and hope for the best, and hopefully try to catch some opportunity to actually achieve more than a 2035 threshold only if the cost opportunity is there. Because sometimes being compliant with the 2050 objectives may not be feasible from an economical standpoint. In the best case scenario, in the worst case scenario, may not be feasible at all. So depending on the conditions. So something that we'll see in the future, I guess.
Okay, I would like to thank all the speakers for your contribution, all the attendees for your time and for choosing this workshop instead of another one. Yeah, I wish you a great continuation of sustainable place, and we will meet this evening to dinner for those that are joining.
Many thanks to the moderator.